This is JP with Political Pop Culture, and this is my take. Martin Luther King believed in the power of peaceful protest. He was a vocal critic of violence and riots because he knew that those kinds of actions would only cause his opponents to dig in their heels and say, "You see, they're violent and aggressive and can't possibly integrate into a polite society." Well, over the last few months, in the wake of the highly publicized and factually distorted deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, the Black Lives Matter movement has taken to the streets and rioted, looted, and burned city after city across America. I can tell you, without question, Martin Luther King would be ashamed of that behavior. I can also tell you the violence, the looting, the rioting, that's not the only behavior that he would be ashamed of. Speaking of shame, it would be a real shame if you didn't click like on this video. In fact, it would be a downright shame if you didn't click like, subscribe to the channel, and then hit the notification bell so you'll know whenever we post new content. Every comment, every like, and every share really help to have our content shown to more people. Every little bit helps, so thank you. You say that Black Lives Matter, and you better not dare say all lives matter because that's somehow misconstrued as being racist. No, you say Black Lives Matter, yet I have never seen a BLM protest outside a Planned Parenthood clinic. Why is that, do you suppose? Planned Parenthood has killed and continues to kill countless black babies. Don't those Black Lives matter? If not, why? Why don't those Black Lives matter? Would the lives of the innocent murdered en masse matter if the Black Lives Matter movement knew about Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood? Margaret Sanger was racist. I mean, real racist, not racist, like the Democrats will accuse anyone who disagrees with them of being. Margaret Sanger wanted to eliminate black people by using eugenics for, and this is a direct quote, "the gradual suppression, elimination, and eventual extinction of defective stocks, those human weeds which threaten the blooming of the finest flowers of American civilization." Human weeds. What a vile, despicable human being. But hey, she advanced the cause of abortion, so Democrats love her. Joe Biden agrees with Margaret Sanger, by the way. True story. Biden was against the desegregation of schools. He didn't want his children to grow up in a, quote, racial jungle. Oh, and let's not forget that Joe Biden wrote a crime bill that intentionally imposed harsher penalties on black people based on the types of illegal drugs they were more likely to be involved with. Black Lives Matter is also, apparently, very selective about just which black lives actually matter. Black-on-black violence is out of control in many areas of the country. In inner cities, the vast majority of homicides are a result of black-on-black crime. Why isn't BLM organizing events in Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles to peacefully protest and to make a positive effort to change the culture of black-on-black violence? You know why. Because that wouldn't fit the narrative. For the Black Lives Matter movement to be effective, for them to have any stroke, they have to continue the false narrative that they are the victims. They can't be the victims if they're also the perpetrators. So BLM isn't going to talk about inner city violence, gang warfare, or black-on-black crime. In order to keep advancing their agenda, to keep playing the victim, they need a scapegoat, someone to play the role of the bad guy. And of course, we all know who the bad guy is. The sad thing is, if people who support Black Lives Matter were honest, they'd be calling out Democratic politicians who've been intentionally keeping the black population under the control of the government for decades. If BLM really wanted to protest the policies responsible for black-on-black crime that's so rampant in our inner cities, they'd be going straight at the Democrat politicians who run the inner cities and have run them for decades. If they really cared about Black Lives Matter, if it weren't just a slogan designed to draw attention and get lots of nice, juicy donations, Black Lives Matter would be shining a light on the Democratic policies that have caused black families to be destroyed, to become dependent on the government, and, of course, to keep blacks voting Democrat over and over again for decades. The Democratic Party has a long, sad history of racism. But the sharp political operators in the party have found a way to turn their racism into a tool to con the very people they so detest into becoming perpetual supporters. Anti-Reconstruction Democrats founded the KKK and intimidated, harassed, and terrorized blacks, as well as white Republicans. Today, the Democrats and their media lapdogs, they will look you right in the eye and lie to you about their roots in white supremacy. They'll tell you that was ancient history and the party has evolved. But has it? Has it really? In 2010, Joe Biden gave the eulogy for Democratic Senator Robert Byrd of West Virginia. Byrd was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and he filibustered against the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Speaking of the Civil Rights Act, did you know that Democrats filibustered the Civil Rights Act for 60 days? In the end, 21 Democrats in the United States Senate voted against the Civil Rights Act. I'm getting a bit off topic here, and I apologize, but this is a subject that gets me fairly worked up. I was raised to judge a person based on the content of their character, based on who they are, not their ethnicity. I get worked up when I see people maligned in the media or on social media, maligned as being racist for committing the crime of not being in lockstep with the progressive left. And it's exasperating to see so many good and decent people fall victim to the blatant racism that still permeates the Democratic Party and their policies. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. Black Lives Matter is an anti-American, anti-police organization. And who do you see out protesting, rioting, and looting with BLM? Antifa, another anti-American, anti-police organization, which just happens to be funded by a white billionaire by the name of George Soros. Soros and his Open Society Foundation want to destroy American capitalism. They want to force America towards socialism and a one-world government. That also happens to be the goal of today's Democratic Party. The Black Lives Matter movement loves to shout, "No justice, no peace." Martin Luther King would disagree. Dr. King said, "If we do an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, we will be a blind and toothless nation." Clearly, revenge was not in Martin Luther King's playbook. It shouldn't be in ours either. Martin Luther King told us to love our neighbor, not to hate him. He told us we're stronger when we're united, not divided. And he taught us to believe in peace, not in revenge. Martin Luther King said, "Let no man pull you so low as to hate him." But hate's all we see from BLM. The Black Lives Matter movement, as it exists today, is wholly incompatible with Dr. King's teachings. And if Martin Luther King were here today, he would be standing against, not with, those who use their voices to incite instead of unite. Martin Luther King would be ashamed of Black Lives Matter. That's my take. I would love to hear your take. Let me know what you think in the comments. You can also let me know by joining the cult at Pol Pop Cult on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for listening.